What is going on, guys and girls? This is GhostRobo, and look what we have here today. Our first piece of Xbox One ready to be unboxed. This is the controller with the play and charge kit, but who cares about that? What we care about is the brand spanking new controller. I had a chance to play with one of these at E3, and I thought it was a nice remix of the Xbox 360 controller. Improved triggers, a little bit smaller, more grippy sticks that are a little bit smaller, but all in all, a nice kind of update to the Xbox 360 controller. Let's dig in and see what it actually is like out of the box now that it's in my possession. I'm opening the box kind of, I guess, backwards. Let's do this here. Da, 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 da. It's sitting in there like it's a freaking, I don't know, mummy in a tomb. Let's pull this guy out. Now, this is not the Day 1 edition controller that will come with my system. That one will have a little doobie right there that says Day 1 edition. But this is the official Xbox One controller that you will be playing with if you are getting an Xbox One. It is very flat. The front face is incredibly flat. That's the first thing that stands out to me about this controller, is that it has a flat front face. It doesn't really affect much, though. I've played now Killer Instinct, Forza, and Battlefield 4, a bunch of games with it, and it never really comes into effect. It feels so much like the Xbox 360 controller. It's kind of crazy. The buttons are improved. The buttons are clickier now. Just the tension on them, the feel of them feels a little bit better. The D-pad is also an improved D-pad. This is going to be a D-pad that has a lot more, I guess, fine-tuned movement than what we're used to, at least with the launch controller. They tried to, upgrade things by spinning the D-pad. This is definitely way better. The sticks are kind of the most interesting part to me of the whole thing in terms of differences, because they're smaller, and I naturally have small hands. My hand is not a big hand at all, even though I am almost 6'3" in height. I have small hands, and so they feel even small to me. I don't think it's a problem because they have really good grip on them. I just think it's interesting that they chose to shrink the sticks. Maybe it's a sweet spot, and I'm going to need a good couple hours with shooters to know if they really are an improvement or if it was kind of a mistake. Right now, though, the jury's out. I definitely notice that they're smaller. It's kind of an oddity, but I think it's going to be okay. What isn't an oddity, though, is these triggers. They are so much improved. They have great spring back action, if that's something that matters to you. They really do, and they're form-fitted to your finger in a nice way. They kind of lose some of the long shape of the Xbox 360 triggers and go for a more form-fitted trigger. I'm going to try to get it in here and see if you can see. They're concave in just the right way, so your finger fits and rests almost perfectly on them. They do have a little bit of that force feedback, rumble stuff that's evident in games like Forza 5, and they just all in all feel really, really nice. I think this is the main area that the Xbox One controller is better than the DualShock 4 is these triggers right here. DualShock 4, great controller, great triggers, huge improvement over PS3, but these guys are the cream of the crop. Now, the bumpers are an interesting story. Both me and my brother feel like the bumpers are strange. They're very thick, they're much fatter than they used to be, and yet they're not as squishy as what you'd imagine. They're clicky, but I don't know, they feel more massive in your hand. They really have more of a girth to them, per se. When you're trying to, like, put your finger on it, it's not like a thin little bumper. It's more of a thick, big bumper. They're way fatter. They take up more real estate on the controller. Other than that, it's basically par for the course. Like I said with the Xbox 360, you replace start and select with a menu and some other button. They've got weird little logos in there. Can we get in there and see that? Yeah, there you go. And of course, you have your guide button up here that does click in. It doesn't look like it would, but it definitely does click in. On top, you have a sync button that is really not very interesting. And then down below, there is a port for your USB connection. If we can get in here, you can see that, the USB connection port. Other than that, the last thing would be the battery pack, which is a fat pack. It's no longer the little packs, which I think is going to allow for less slippage. I use a lot of the rechargeable packs, and those sometimes do fall out or get weird. This one is more baked into the actual controller. It looks like it's taking, what, 2 AA's again? Something like that. Yeah, that says hello from Seattle, by the way. Microsoft says hello. Yeah, and it does just fit the controller, allowing for a slimmer profile along the back. Is there a jack? Well, there is 2 jacks, actually. There is the mini USB jack up top, so this might in fact be the one that you charge with, is what I'm guessing. And then down here is for accessories. That would probably be my best guess. There's no headset in the box with Xbox One, so you're going to have to buy that stuff separately. I'm not sure how that's all going to shake down. I know that a lot of the current gen stuff won't work. One other thing that I wanted to share with you guys is the comparison between the Xbox One controller and the good old Xbox 360 pad. Now, at first blush, they look really similar, except this one took like a tiny pill or something, because it looks like the buttons and everything on its face have been flattened and shrunk. This is definitely a much rounder face, but just at first blush, they're almost identical. This one is a little bit shorter and potentially a little bit thinner as well in terms of overall width. Now, you should notice that the triggers, or the sticks rather, are smaller on this guy, and the triggers are quite interesting. If we show you the backside of these controllers, the top half of them, you'll notice that the triggers have gotten way beefier on the Xbox One controller. That is something that has grown as opposed to gotten smaller. Here they function a little bit more just as straight, very basic triggers, and here they've tried to really angle them, really make them fit right into your fingertips as best as possible. From the back side, you can see that the battery pack has smoothed out the back as well, but for the most part, they look the same. I will tell you that the buttons and the D-pad perform a lot better here, as well as the triggers. I do prefer, I think, the bumpers on this one. In terms of sticks, it's anybody's guess. We're just going to have to play a bunch of games and see. They are smaller here, but supposedly the dead zone has been decreased and some other things, so it could function really well. Like I said, when I played Battlefield 4 with this one earlier, it felt really good, but all in all, I'm going to have to see which sticks I prefer. Similarly with the PlayStation 4 controller, they've gone for a much more futuristic look, as you can tell. Granted, this one does have a red faceplate on it, but the buttons look a lot sleeker. The overall design of the controller looks sleeker. Just the implementation of the buttons and where they place the logos and even the guide button has gone for this very like space-age futuristic look. Even the back, the battery pack, just something about this screams like we're trying to be really, really, really futuristic, and that's the same sense I got from the DualShock 4 versus DualShock 3. Lastly, this guy could be available at your local GameStop. That's where I picked him up, and technically, according to their website, they are in stock at a bunch of places, so you might get lucky and be able to find one if you go looking right now. I'm happy to say that I think overall this is the better controller. DualShock 4 is fantastic. They're closer than they were by far, and I'll give it a couple weeks before I make my final verdict on which controller is the best, because we won't really know for sure until we play all the games. But right now, I think in terms of form-fitting, this feels like it's just like gaming, come here and sit in my hands, and this is what I'd want. This controller is just very nearly perfect. The sticks, I think, will be the main point of contention for people, and it'll be interesting because, again, you know, even though the DualShock 4 is much more like this controller than before, it does have the sticks both down here instead of the offline positioning. So I guess that's just a preferential thing, what you like better or worse. Also in this box is the play and charge kit, which I'll show you. The play and charge battery is right here. It basically functions as 2 AA batteries to go in that back slot. And there's probably a cable, which we can see where it goes. And then, yeah, I think this is going to go up top for your wired connection. Which way does it go? Mini USB. I'm glad that everyone's switching to mini USB. It's a better standard than what we had previously, and I think it'll have less ability to break than previously. Because man, those teeth on some of those PS3 controller charge cables, they just got crazy. It's a nice cable if that matters to you, USB to mini USB, and it does connect in the top. So top for charging, bottom for accessories. This is the Xbox One controller. I can't wait for the system to release in just a few more days. Let me know what you think of the controller in the comments down below. Hit that like button if you're excited for Xbox One and ready to jump into next gen. Stay tuned for much more coverage on the PS4 and the Xbox One. Follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/GhostRobo for all sorts of updates, pictures, links, and awesome stuff relating to these new two beasts. Until that time, though, guys, it was a fantastic day. Thanks so much for joining us. I like this controller a lot. We will see you all later.